This is Jody Sidlauskis, RIT Associate Archivist, and it is October 18th, 2014. Today I am in the Student Center, and I am interviewing alumni from the RIT class of 1964 for Brick City Weekend. And right now, I have with me Dan Hoffman, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you about his experiences at RIT. Dan?
Hello, I'm Dan Hoffman. I majored in mechanical engineering, class of '64, and we're here celebrating our 50th class reunion. After my military service in the Air Force, I had attended Erie County Technical Institute in Buffalo and had a degree in mechanical technology. And at the time, we were looking around what school would accept us and accept our major credits. And we came to the conclusion that RIT was the place to be. So in 1961, my friend and I and our wives packed up a truck and came to Rochester, New York, and found housing and enrolled at the RIT. I was a veteran, so I was under the GI Bill of Rights. We lived at student housing on Bacchus Street. And some of our Bacchus friends were Bill Buckingham, Ernie Weber. Buckingham was in business. Weber was in engineering with myself. Dick McDonald was in printing. And Fred Abel was in photograph. And we were always the men of Bacchus Street. We had fun together. After the wives would take care of the children in the evening, we'd head off to Buckingham's on Lake Avenue, to Bullwinkle's on Lake Avenue. Our experience here, educational-wise, was mainly in the city of Rochester. We took all of our classes in the city of Rochester. One of the craziest moments of our stay in Rochester was we graduated out in Henrietta. We were the first class to graduate in Henrietta. It was an open field. There were bleachers up and all that kind of thing. And all of our parents who came down and all that. And then we went to have a party, and I found out I left my wife in Henrietta, and she had to get back the best way she could at that time. I really don't remember today how she finally got back to Rochester at our housing and having a party with our friends. So
I'm just going to say that Dan's wife is in the room, and we are laughing. What's your name?
Barbara.
Barbara is in the room.
And it was married student housing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone had to be married to be in that
on
house.
Bacchus Street in Edgerton, in the Edgerton Park area near the high school. Yeah. It was right across Al's stand, so we had pizza every night we had dinner or pizza. It was great. Our friends from Indianapolis, our Rochester friends, we always got together and had a great time. We did study though. We spent a lot of time with the books so that we could get good grades, and we did. We graduated with honors. I got my BS degree in mechanical engineering in '64. And then I went on to co-op I started co-op in '61 when we got here at Xerox Corporation. I worked at Xerox for 34 years. In 1974, I came back to RIT and got my master's in mechanical engineering with the help of Xerox and their program. And I stayed there and traveled all around the world business-wise. We were making printers, well, copiers at first, then printers, and it was a great experience. There was a lot of technical people at Xerox, mostly a good number of them from RIT here. And we made friends at that time. Obviously, Xerox was a booming company at that time.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's changed its direction and going into more servers rather than equipment for printing and copying. So basically that was my career. At the moment now, since I can't play golf every day, I manage a self-storage facility on Jefferson Road, about 4 miles down from RIT here. And we do service many of the students who attend RIT. Currently, our business is not that good because the students are in class, but come March till September, when they leave for a job or go home or go vacation, all of their stuff is stored at our storage facility on Jefferson Road. So basically, that's where I am in my life right now. I have 2 daughters. One went to Cortland and Ohio State, and now she's working at SUNY Brockport in the athletic department. And our other daughter is blind, and she graduated from University of Buffalo, and she works at Jiva. So we came to Rochester, we settled in, and we're going to be here for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions that were kind of generated from your talk. Do you remember what building most of your classes were in?
Most of our classes were in Clark Building. Most of the buildings have been demolished except the one on, I forget the name of it there.
Was the Eastman building there?
No,
No?
no, it was near the hockey rink.
Mm-hmm. It was probably Clark.
Yes.
Yep. Fairly new. The Clark building,
Yes,
white.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Most of all of our classes were down in that area. We had none, well, obviously there was no facility for classes here at that time.
No, but you say your commencement ceremony was out here?
Out in the field in Henrietta, yes, yes it was. They had the bleachers up, and we all came out here, and it was just fields.
It was a nice day, I hope?
Oh yeah, it was very nice and hot.
That's kind of risky.
And because of the commotion and so many people visiting and congratulating and everybody coming in cars and where's Barbara?
That's a great story.
Oh my God.
But that's the first I've heard of commencement being
Yep,
held there.
1964, June 64. We were the first ones graduating from Henrietta. There was nothing here except bleachers, and they had cut the grass and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It was nice, open field. We had a lot of room to park and no congestion. Now it's awesome. It's a city within itself here. It's awesome, or a group of cities within itself. But we spent most of our study in the city, and our recreation went to the Pastime or Bullwinkles at that time. Pastime was on West Main Street.
That pastime keeps coming up.
It does. Oh yeah.
A lot of good times were had there, it
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like.
Yes, we studied a lot there.
Dan, talk a little bit about you and Pepsi and the sculptures in the park.
Yes, in our neighborhood, I made a friend called Pepsi Catabon, who's an alumni of RIT here in sculpture. And we commissioned him to do Let's Have a Tea sculpture in the park in Susan B. Anthony Park. It has Frederick Douglass facing north and Susan B. Anthony facing south, and they're having tea. Obviously, he's facing north because he came north to get himself situated and get his movement going. And they're having tea because Susan B. Anthony, prior to being a suffragist, was traveling down south to talk to the people and all that, and they always would share tea. We did a lot of research before we did that. That's how come we came up to the name Let's Have Tea, which was sculptures, life-size, larger than life-size sculptures of Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass seated in the park.
And where is that located? What park?
Susan B. Anthony Square Park, near the Susan B. Anthony House,
Okay.
in Susan B. Anthony neighborhood. It would be sort of just behind the baseball field, the Silver Stadium there.
Is that Marshall Street?
King Street and Madison
Oh,
Street.
thank you, okay, yeah.
Yes, Madison North, Madison South, and King Street. It contains the park. It was first named, I forget the name.
Mechanic Square.
Mechanic Square, and then it was changed, Susan B. Anthony Park, and Louise Slaughter provided a lot of incentives and funds there to make it one of, what's his name?
It is the Frederick
Frederick
Olmsted
Lawson
Design
Park.
Park, but it was severely damaged after the ice storm that we had here in Rochester, and Louise Slaughter was very, very instrumental in funds for that particular park.
Oh,
Initially, when we came to Rochester and I worked at Xerox, we lived in West Arundecoy. And my wife shares a birthday with Susan B. Anthony, so you know what that means. We had to move into the Susan B. Anthony neighborhood, so we've been there now 20.
We've been there since 1980. Well, we came into the district in 1980.
24
One of the
years.
reasons that we came into the district was it had just become a local preservation district in '79,
okay.
and our daughter Lisa was mainstreamed, and we wanted her to understand that she could always live independently. So we bought the first house for her there at 8 Madison Park North, and we hung on to it for quite some time, and then we ended up selling it to Pepsi Ketawag. So he lives in the neighborhood across from the sculptures in the park. We then purchased, our daughter Susan at the time was a freshman in college, and she kind of said, Lisa was 16, and she said, oh, you bought a house for Lisa, and what about me? In a nice way. I said, oh my God. So then we ended up buying the house next door for Susan. Both daughters never have lived in the district. And then the city and the neighbors saw how committed we were to the neighborhood, and they really pushed us up onto Main Street. So in '82, we bought a building on West Main Street, and I still own that. We still own that building. And recently, we've bought 2 more buildings in the neighborhood. Our daughters are very, very committed. Both daughters are professional women, so we don't have grandchildren, but they're very, very committed to that area. And Dan has been absolutely spectacular. I mean, the neighbors just, you know, but because we live in a house that was built in 1849. As a matter of fact, we went into Studio 1. That's the shop, right? Shop
Yes.
one.
Shop one.
Scott Grove has some work there, and he restored the doors at our house.
Oh, really?
So we have a tremendous amount of interaction with many of the artists, and because Lisa coordinates tours at the Memorial Art Gallery for the visually impaired, Albert Paley will come and speak to her group, and Wendell Castle and Nancy Jers. I mean, they're really, really wonderful. And
Wow.
Luvon Shepard, who was a professor here, he
Yes.
has his gallery right around the corner from our house.
Oh, okay.
So there are
Yeah,
a tremendous amount of connections. And
Yes.
Carlos, who teaches jewelry.
Jewelry.
Caballero.
Yeah, you know.
But
so
our friendships at Rochester, RIT, after we graduated, continued for a while because our friend Fred Abel was a graduate of Notre Dame. Then he came here and graduated in '64 in photography, so he could work his dad's photo studio in Indianapolis. And his dad had the rights of photo journalism at the Indianapolis 500. So we always went out to Indianapolis to Fred Abel's, come on out, and went to the Indianapolis 500 race. Buckingham, McDonald, Weber, we'd all head out to Abel's place in Indianapolis, Indiana for the races. We were there about 3 races in a row. We took pictures at that year, the winner was Rutherford, Johnny Rutherford. After the race, the second day, Abel was able to photograph the drivers and their cars and all that kind of stuff. So we had an opportunity to take a picture on a track with Johnny Rutherford in his car. So that was our friendship continues that way,
Yep.
and it continues today in that we share our friendships with McDonald, who is in just south of Buffalo, Weber's, who here in Rochester. has passed away since, unfortunately. And Bill Buckingham, he's still in Canandaigua. So our relationships that started or seeded here at RIT continues to go for a long time, and we're very thankful for that.
That
Excuse me.
seems to be something we're hearing over here today, that, and I think because the school was much smaller and the classes were just very cohesive, and these friendships they
Oh, yeah.
became lifelong friendships.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we not only studied together and took classes together, but we went out and socialized together.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the men and women, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a continuous kind of thing. So it was great times, great times.
Wonderful.
Thank
Married
you for
student
RIT.
housing. Yeah, married student housing was an unusual, very, very unusual experience, obviously.
Yeah.
Very, very unusual.
Let's see, Susan was born in student
Susan.
housing.
And,
Oh.
and I, there were certificates that were given to the children that were born, all right, while their parents were students, and I couldn't get my hands on, I'm sure I have it somewhere, but I
Oh.
couldn't get my hands
Something
on it.
that RIT gave you?
RIT did,
Oh,
RIT.
Karen Weber was born, Ernie's daughter.
Karen Weber was born.
Buckingham's daughter was
Oh.
born there.
see, I haven't heard that one either. That's
Yes,
a new
the
one.
children- The children were
Yeah.
born while the
Families
parents were.
grew.
And so what was this married housing like? I mean, were you like,
It's been demolished since, I
Mhm.
think that what was it originally, a jail or something? It was something.
As far as I know, it was a library. I'm not sure, or part of it was still a library.
Part of it was a library.
And it was clean. It was managed by a person that was an elderly person, but he kept it very clean. Obviously, we had to continue. We had privileges. My friend Ernie would almost remodel the room that they had. And as people would move out, and you'd get to a bigger room, you know how it goes.
were they like small apartments
Small
then?
Some of-
apartments.
Okay.
Some of them were small, some of them were 2 bedrooms, some were 3 bedrooms. So it was great. It's crazy.
Well, because Abel's came to Rochester with 2 children.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
Freddie and Dawn.
Dawn,
They came
yeah,
with the
yeah.
2 children.
okay.
Very,
So the
very
children had relationships and still continue that way. So it's great to be here.
And so because there were other married students, you didn't really feel like you were different in any way
Oh,
or
no.
excluded from
That's right.
what was going on at school.
Yes. We felt different when we went to class because we were the oldest guys.
Yeah.
Because my friend Ernie and Fred Abel was elderly too. So, because I was in the service before I started my educational career. So,
Okay.
but
So you must have been what, late 20s?
20s, yeah. Yeah, right.
Mid 20s?
26.
Yeah, about 20, yeah.
Okay.
It was a fun experience. I'll always remember it, and very good.
And you were here for how many years?
Oh, we're still here now.
I mean, at RIT.
I graduated in 64, and
You
I
came in.
had the co-op job, and so
Okay.
when I was hired after I graduated in 64, they counted all of my co-op time towards my tenure at Xerox. So that was nice. I had 4 years, 10 years starting employee.
Wow.
So I worked at almost every one of their locations. I've been in Japan. I've been in Benray, Holland, and it was a great experience. A lot of fantastic people, very highly skilled people. Very good.
What would you tell a mechanical engineering student today?
Wow. I would say, the world out there is much different than it is on campus and studying. So whatever you learn here obviously will help you, but when you get out there, you've got to apply some of that stuff you learned here to, in a creative way, to move forward in what you're trying to do. You always seems like you're pushing the blade, trying to being on a cutting edge. You want the best product, you want the best copier, you want the best paper handler, you want the best kind of information, you want the best materials to be used on this product. Everybody's contributing in a little fashion because projects out there are large. Very seldom are you responsible for a large project unless you've been around the company for several years, you know, then you become program manager and stuff like that. But starting out, you're on a little project and you want to push it the best you can. You know? And obviously, mechanical engineering today has changed significantly from when it was when we were reading blueprints
Right.
and using a slide rule.
Slide rule.
Yeah.
And
rule.
now you're on your phone, you've got everything on your phone.
Yeah.
Multiplication, subtractions, sine, cosine, tangent, it's
Yeah,
right
They
here.
don't have to.
But we slide.
Yes.
It would be difficult, except you do the best you can, apply what you've learned, and it's going to be different out there. And how you use it's going to be very important.
Great.
Oops.
Anything else? I think we've covered quite a bit here.
And when I started, I was on the GI Bill. It was like $250 a semester. Well, no, you were on quarters, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
And now you were just switched to semesters.
Semesters, yeah.
So it was like $500 a quarter, I think, and the GI Bill was paying for it. Now, my gosh, you know, it's very expensive, but it's worth it. I'm sure it is. Because
Oh, I hope so for these kids. It's a lot of money. All right, well, unless you have anything else.
Not really. It was just a pleasure to be accepted and be a part of the RIT family, and we continue to be that way. It'll never go away. I'm glad of that. I don't know, Barb. What do you think?
Well, RIT has such a fabulous reputation that within living in that Susan B. Anthony Historic District and, you know, being so strong and part of it, we run into a lot of RIT grads, all right? For example, there's a Lisa Barker that works at the Seed Folk store on West Main Street, right? And there's a group that's called Prosper Rochester. I mean, they're pretty much grassroots, all right, you know, work with youth. And Lisa is a photography alum here,
Oh.
and we run into a lot of RIT students, and they do not, they've just maybe graduated 1 or 2 years ago, and they don't ever talk about, you know, how expensive it was or what the debt is. They talk about the fabulous education that they received. It's really interesting.
That's
and of
good
course,
to
that's a very, very different generation. I can see, so for us, it would be this generation, then our daughter's generation. They would be the third generation, okay,
Right.
you know, in terms of our interaction with
Sure.
them. But RIT is very, very strong, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yes.
very
Yeah.
proud.
It's throughout the neighborhood. It's throughout the city. It's and I met people here that were graduates prior to me even, and it was a surprise to see them because, you know, we knew them as our daughters were going to high school. Their daughters and our daughters were playing soccer and softball and baseball, and they show up here, and I think he was 10 years ahead of me in graduation. Whoa! Dario Armanini. Oh my gosh. So RIT's been around for a long time, and I'm sure it's doing very well. It's well by us.
Yes.
And the man that leads the bike tours in the city,
Oh yeah.
and the first bike tour that he leads is in the Susan B. Anthony Historic District, and knows the sculptures and knows who we are. And
He's a
he
graduate
said,
of
"Do you know
RIT."
where we live?" He said, "Oh, of course I know. We stop in front of your house."
takes
Because
about-
it's Second Empire French mansard roof, and one of the first mayors of Rochester had lived in that house.
Oh, really?
So-
This
So we'll have
gentleman,
to come down there.
this gentleman takes about a couple dozen bicyclists on tours to Rochester. Now, we have bike tours, or we have bike routes all over the city now. You know, people. So they're taking advantage of it. But
It's great.
awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're about out of time, and I want to thank you on behalf of the archives for agreeing to do this interview, because it's very valuable for us to have be capturing this history from the downtown campus, which
Beautiful.
is soon we're gonna be losing that, and there's only a few more years of graduates from there,
Right,
so
right.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.